sat down to play and sing, and I realized like I don't really want to play. I just want to hug the guitar. So I was sitting down with the classical guitar, placing my hands on it and just hugging it. And it felt good. But the insight I had at that moment is that I have these guitars and I have this drum kit, which I barely play.
Sounds like my telescopes.
Hello and welcome to Metacast, the podcast about podcasting, where we talk about podcasting, I guess. Today is a special day because today we are also recording video. We still remain committed to audio, but we just want to experiment with video and see how it performs on platforms like YouTube. We should also upload it to Anchor, which is now Spotify for podcasters, and see how it performs on Spotify. We just want to play with video. Well, I want to play with video, and I cursed Arnab into playing with video as well. Yeah. So one thing that we should really keep in mind, Arnab, today is that if we say something that's visible on the video, we might have to explain to people who just listen what we are talking about. Like if I say, oh, nice t-shirt, well, now I have to explain that you have this nice t-shirt with an orca's tail from which state park?
Let me stand up so you can see it.
People can listen, can really see it now.
Yeah. It's a nice t-shirt. It's from Lime Kiln Point State Park in Washington State, northern part of Washington State. And people on video can actually see the orcas in the water. And it really is like that, where that's a place where you do a very short walk down to the water shoreline. And you used to be able to see orcas right by the water. The orcas of this area, the Pacific Northwest, they're undergoing some challenges. They are not visiting that area anymore, and their numbers are decreasing too. So,
such a sad start to our Metasode.
Yeah, but it's reality. So talking about video, I wasn't feeling very good. I have a headache going on and stuff. But Ilya said, "Hey, let's put on some nice t-shirts. I'm going to wear my Metallica thing. Do you have your Foo Fighters?" And for the life of me, I could not find anything related to music anywhere in there. I did donate a whole lot of t-shirts about 3-4 months back, so maybe I did that, I don't know, but this is a nice one. I really like this shirt.
Nice. I really wanted to wear our Metacast t-shirt, but I couldn't find it.
But it's only been like a week that we got it.
Maybe it's just been in a dryer somewhere or in a dirty clothing bin. So yeah, I wear the Metallica shirt, which is the next best thing for this podcast.
I know you said video, so we can't edit easily and stuff like that. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed behind my head or whatever. But we do have another dog. I usually have my dog with me. We are also babysitting or dog sitting a dog. So we'll see how this goes, how much editing we have to do or not have to do.
This is the perfect episode to showcase the dogs.
Maybe they'll come in at some point anyway.
And I have this awesome setup right now. So basically, I spent a couple of hours today with my son setting up this room because it kind of kept him occupied while I was doing that. So I have 2 lights that I've had for maybe 7 years that really light me up. And those who watch the video, they can see how actually cool it looks, much better than I thought. I'm using my iPhone 14 Pro, the smaller one, not the Max one.
Fancy.
Yeah, to record the video. So basically I have a selfie stick with a tripod right behind my laptop. I'm looking at it right now. My Mac is using my iPhone's camera to do the recording, which is just mind-blowing that it actually works.
Oh yeah, that launched recently, right? With iOS 16 or the latest Mac update, yeah.
Occasionally it gets triggered like I'm in a work conference call and it starts to show people contents of my pocket or something because it just turns on the phone camera for some reason.
Automatically,
yeah. I don't know why.
That's weird.
I don't know why it does it. And I don't know if it's Google Meet or if it's some Apple stuff. I have no idea. But it works really, really nice. I was comparing it to 2 of my HD webcams today. And the quality is just, I mean, you can see the quality, right?
Looks so much better, yeah. And your background too, now that you say it, you have like a very tastefully placed drum set and your guitar in there. When you first joined this session on Squadcast, I first thought that looks like one of those Zoom backgrounds almost. You know how you're sitting in a snowy cafe or like on the beach?
Right, yeah.
It looks so good, but it's all real. Or at least I believe it's real.
And to make it even more real, I can actually, to those people who listen, that's a crash cymbal. No, it's a right. This is a crash.
And we didn't sound edit that in at all. We promise you.
Yeah, so I have this drum kit. Actually, that's interesting thing since we started talking about music. Yeah, I was out in Peru, like in the jungle at a retreat, and I really wanted to play the guitar, and one person there had a guitar with her. So I grabbed the guitar from her and I just sat down to play and sing. And I realized like, I don't really want to play. I just want to hug the guitar. So I was sitting down with the classical guitar, placing my hands on it and just hugging it. And it felt good. But the insight I had at that moment is that I have these guitars and I have this drum kit, which I barely play ever. I maybe played this drum kit maybe 10 times in the last 4 months. And my guitars, I play like once a month, twice a month.
Sounds like my telescopes.
Yeah, I always felt guilty about it though, right? But then what that moment in Peru made me realize is that it's actually okay to have a musical instrument or any other kind of thing just being placed on a wall where you can see it and just enjoy the sight of it. And that's just okay. Like you can buy whatever, a Monet picture for like thousands of bucks, right? Or maybe millions of bucks. And all you do with it is enjoy. Why can't I enjoy my $500 guitar like that?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Talking about enjoying, I think you were missing AWS too much, right? So you put on those EC2 looking blocks behind you.
So for those people who are listening, behind me, I have those sound absorption panels in shape of a cell. We will do a squad shot so you can see those on the picture. So yeah, put those on the wall so that they reduce the echo in the room, the reverberation in the room.
I think people who are not used to AWS or cloud may recognize like they're basically honeybee nest shape. Looks super cool.
Yeah. I brought some really awesome honey from Peru, by the way, but that's it. We're almost done with it.
Talking about all that, I think we should at least say what episode of Metacast it is and all that and start with that.
So that's the tricky part, right? When we recorded our last Metasode, which was Metasode, I think it's what episode 11 that comes out next week. But today is March 12th when we record this.
It's March 12th and this episode is coming out on 5th of April.
Yes, this episode will come out on April 5th. And this is episode number 13?
Yep.
13? Yeah. So when we recorded our last episode, we said that we were looking forward to the Sounders FC guests.
Yes.
From the Sounders FC podcast. And that was supposed to be our episode number 12. That recording got cancelled for now. Hopefully will be rescheduled. But now, since the season just started, it may be rescheduled like into 2024. I will be surprised, right? So they said like, how much should we talk about the future given how unknown the future is?
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
And we record like at least a month or month and a half ahead too. So things change quite a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So instead of Sounders FC people, our episode number 12 was with Ronak and Guang from the Software Misadventures podcast. So actually, I know how I'm going to call this Metasode. I'm going to call it the Podcasting Misadventures Metasode.
And it's going well.
Yeah. I listened to half of that episode today. I think it's a very good episode. Lots of edits to be done though. But one thing I wanted to just call out right away, just to give our listeners and viewers now some context. Our process is such that when we record an episode with guests, then I would usually put all of those tracks together, mix them without edits, and send them to Arnab so that he can listen to those. And I would also listen to them occasionally. That helps us prepare for the Metasode recordings. Metasode is the meta episode about the previous episodes and just podcasting in general with no guests. But this time what we did is we just went to Squadcast, the tool that we use for recording, and downloaded the mixed version as a cloud recording, which kind of serves the needs that we have. We just need to listen to something that's very rough. Quality doesn't matter. We just need to listen to the content to remind ourselves what we were talking about. However, the quality of that cloud recording is just absolutely horrible, especially Guang's, because he was in Mexico City. His latency was probably a lot higher than ours who were in the US and Canada. But the podcast quality will be great because it's all recorded locally. It's just such a great showcase for why you need to record locally versus rely on like Zoom or other tools.
bit of details behind this. So we are using Squadcast to record it. Squadcast, it's like Zoom. You're on a Zoom call, so you can see everybody and you're like talking at the same time and you're recording. Squadcast is recording everything locally, but also pretty much real time uploading it into their cloud. So we had 4 people on the last episode. So there would be 4 individual audio tracks of those 4 people. In Squadcast, you can download all 4 tracks individually. This is what Ilya used to do in preparation for our metasodes. When we do the metasode, we want to listen to the full episode so that we kind of remember what we talked about and we bring in interesting points from there and all that. And so what Ilya would do is download those 4 tracks and then stitch them together. And there would be like time drifts and all that, and you'll have to adjust and maybe do some first layer of editing at the same time. This time, we decided let's not wait for all that, and it takes a lot of time. Let's just use the cloud recording. That was the first realization I had, is how bad the quality is, especially for Guang. He would sometimes say things that drift away, or there's a different pitch to it towards the end of the sentence.
Yeah, lots of crackling noise. Basically like what you hear in long distance calls over any kind of messenger, right? Because they try to compress the audio so much that there's so much lost frames, I guess.
Data.
Lost data, yeah.
And I think the other effect of that was also when we had 4 people talking and all 4 streams are like simultaneously, there's some audio coming in from it. It was almost impossible to understand what's being said. And this is the amazing thing. Once we actually download those individual local recorded audio streams and do the amazing sound editing, when you folks, the listeners or the viewers of this, when you hear that episode, you won't know any of that. I still don't know any of the details of the process, but the whole thing is amazing.
Yeah. Actually, right now I hear a bit of static in my ears. So I don't know where the static is coming from. So I guess we'll have to figure out if Misha can edit that.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll see.
So talking about Misha, I think that was one of the things I wanted to quickly bring up. Do you want to tell us about Masha and Misha?
Masha and Misha.
Yeah.
I think we talked briefly about both of them in the previous episodes. First of all, both of them will be listening to this, so I guess we should say hi. Hi, Misha. Hi, Masha. So Masha is the sister of my wife, who is currently a student in a university in St. Petersburg in Russia. And she's studying foreign languages, one of which is English. So yeah, I offered her a little gig to help her make a little money and help us produce our podcast. She has just done with our episode 11. I showed her how to edit things in Descript, like how you remove things that you don't need, that shouldn't be there, like filler words, pauses that too long and stuff like that. So yeah, she is doing that in Descript while also practicing her English and getting the first job on her resume. Actually, I'm yet to listen to the results of her work, which I'll listen to tomorrow. And assuming everything is good, I'm going to take what she's edited and send it to Misha for audio engineering, where he would apply EQ, be an equalizer, remove breaths, all this kind of stuff that's more like technical.
Yeah.
So basically, she's our editor.
Content editor, yeah.
Content editor, yeah. And he's our
sound editor.
Yeah, like sound engineer. Coming back to Ronak and Guang episode, the point I want to make about that cloud recording, because basically what you get in cloud recording is what you hear while you talk. It's like what's being streamed. And the quality is just absolutely horrible, which we don't notice as we speak. But if you listen to that, it just becomes apparent. So edit your podcast, I guess. There is no quick and dirty way. You have to actually do some work or spend money to make it sound good.
So in that episode, he's like traveling, or no, he's actually living in Mexico City right now. And his apartment actually lost power while we were recording. So he was gone from the stream for a little bit and then came back again after maybe about 10 minutes or so. And after the recording, Ilya, you and I had like, oh, how the heck are we going to edit all of that, sync it? It's going to be so much work. I'm wondering, we haven't done the editing yet, but I'm wondering how hard it would be to process and what will you have to do?
I guess here is the logistics. So we have one long file for both of us because we were during the entire time. Then we have Ronak's file, which started at the same time as ours. but it finished sooner because he had to drop. And then we have 2 files from Guang. One of them starts with everybody else, and then there is a small gap because he was absent for maybe a minute. But then his file ends where our files end, because we finished recording at the same time. So I think what I'll be able to do is basically all of the 4 files will start at the same time, so it will be easy to sync. I mean, it's like sync by default. Then Ronak's file will just end wherever it ends, it doesn't matter. But then the second Guang's file, I'll sync to where our files end. And that will hopefully give us that gap in between. But I think what I'll have to do is I'll have to actually go through the speaker transitions in that episode before I send it to Masha. Because I think it will be a bit too much for her to edit with all the laughs and stuff.
Yeah.
Given this is her like second episode, I think it's a bit too much.
Yeah. When I was listening to the Metasode, we also spoke over each other quite a lot. I don't know how Descript is going to handle that. That'll be fun.
Oh, it's such a pain in the ass to handle this in Descript. Because you have to switch between the text mode and the proper multi-track mode. And that proper multi-track mode leaves much to be desired. It's not powerful enough compared to like Reaper and other tools where you can just like quickly do something in a fraction of a second. In Descript, you might spend 10 seconds to do the thing I could do in 1 second in Reaper.
Right. So if Guang had dropped one more time, that middle segment, so he joined and it's synced to when we start. And the last segment would be synced to when we end. Makes sense. The middle one, how would you put that in? Would you have to listen to the whole thing again and again to figure it out?
I think so, yeah. Well, the way this could work is because mostly only one person speaks at a time.
You hope so.
You know, when you ask a question and one person responds to it, so you will have that place in audio where, let's say, 3 of our tracks, yours, mine, and Ronak's, we either have silence or we have just tiny blips, maybe like laughs or some filler words like right or yes or whatever. And then Guang's file would have some speech. They would like more or less match in terms of the length, like length of silence in our tracks versus length of speech in his. I could align it that way. It doesn't have to be perfect. Some of the worst things I had to deal with previously is syncing video with audio, because if you have different, what they call it, the hertz one. Is it frame rate? Frequency?
Frame rate.
I think it's a frame rate. Yeah. I think my camera was recording at 44.1 kilohertz and my audio was recording at 48K. What you get is like it starts fine, but then it just starts to drift over time. And I think I was doing like some musical instrument kind of stuff, like playing a guitar and recording that. So within the 5 minutes I was doing that, there was drift. I forgot what I had to do, but it was just so infuriating.
Right.
to edit that.
The other thing was also it highlighted to me the importance to have isolated audio tracks, because there were quite a few times when I was listening to the cloud recording, which is bad quality, we know already, where people are like, somebody's laughing while somebody's trying to say something, and I can't understand what they're trying to say anymore. Or 3-4 people are talking at the same time. This is where if you have isolated tracks, you can suppress the volume of those other tracks and give boost to the one of those tracks.
One interesting thing about that recording is that we were saying just how great Squadcast was. We were giving it all the praise it deserves. And then after we finished the recording, I even had to open a support ticket to Squadcast. The problem, however, was that the user interface was a bit confusing. It was showing some kind of like a line or something that I thought meant that it's 100% done. But as a support person explained to me, if you see the line, it means that it's still processing. That just wasn't clear to me. And we kind of freaked out for a second because we thought files weren't uploaded. Then they were uploaded, but we just couldn't download them for some reason. That didn't happen to us before, I think, because we didn't check right away when we recorded video. Because first of all, we recorded video. And I think because we did video, it just took a lot longer than usual. And we were checking it right away. And I think that also contributed to our anxiety.
Plus, there was a lot of drifts and all that. Not drifts, but syncing, like Guang dropped, came back again. There were multiple files and things going on. And then I think Guang closed his browser window too. And then you sent them an email and he opened it again. Anyway, yeah. At the end of it, I think it was all perfect.
Yeah, at the end of it, it's all just fine, but we freaked out for a moment. Actually, to be fair to Squadcast, so everything worked just fine. So it's just a user interface that could have been a little bit more intuitive there. And their support, they responded within 10 minutes, 15 minutes, very quickly. And that was awesome. I think within an hour, we had everything sorted out. So one thing I wanted to bring up about the podcast is I think that one turned out more as a discussion rather than an interview, because they were also curious in how we record our podcast. Actually, it ended up being less of us just asking questions, but more of us asking questions, but also them asking some of those questions back to us because they were also curious. So yeah, that was pretty cool. I really liked the vibe of it.
I was listening to the episode. I really liked. It was very engaging. I can't believe that it was 1 hour, 20 minutes, but I didn't know like when I started listening. I mean, I know when I started listening, but I didn't know that it finished so quickly. It was very engaging.
You actually finished listening to the whole thing?
Yeah, in one session.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I only listened to half an hour because that's just how much I had to drive today.
No, I went for a dog walk. I was listening at about 1.1x, I think. And it was a long, beautiful, sunny day. So it was a long dog walk. I didn't think that I would finish it. There's a point about 5 minutes before the end where we say, oh, we have to wrap up. That's when I looked and I'm like, wow. Yeah, it was very engaging.
Well, it's good. It's good. I found it to be very enjoyable. One thing I found a bit jarring about that cloud recording is that the volumes of tracks were so different. I think Guang's was very loud compared to Ronak's. So I was driving, I had to turn the volume knob back and forth all the time because I almost had to listen to like the max volume when the Ronak was talking. But then Guang would come in or one of us would come in and it would be just too loud and I would have to dial it back. And my car, it's a good car, but that volume knob is just absolutely infuriating because it's, it could be better. It's not too sensitive enough, I think. You have to really like turn it many times, many oscillations to make it quieter.
Too coarse grain, the steps you're talking about.
Yeah, the steps are maybe too granular because I actually want them to be more coarse grain. Yeah. The other thing I want to call out is how they talked about how it was really nice to receive an email from you. In reading your email, they could really see that you actually know their stuff. You know, you've listened to many episodes and it was a very nice email and they actually praised you for writing that email because they also said how many emails they get, like people asking just to be on a podcast and some ads or whatever, right? Yours was very different. And I just have this flashback to back in October, I think, when we first started emailing people. One of the tasks we had was to come up with a template and then we quickly scratched that because the template wouldn't be any good. If we reach out to people, we actually have to know what they do. Just from a purely pragmatic perspective to increase the chances of getting a response, it has to be an email that touches something personally, right? The template just wouldn't cut it. One of the emails, I forgot which one it was, but I spent an hour writing a 3-paragraph email and, I got a yes. So it was worth it. I guess kudos to us for writing those awesome emails that get people to respond and come to our podcast.
So who's the next guest that's coming that liked reading the email that you sent, Ilya?
Oh my God. So fingers crossed that nothing gets canceled or anything. We are getting Justin Frankel, who is the founder of Winamp, which is the app that, oh man, I get the goosebumps. That maybe after my early 20s, like teens and early 20s, I used Winamp to listen to MP3 files. I assume you use it too in India?
Yeah. I mean, I think everywhere.
I was listening to the interview of Justin Frankel with Brian McCullough. I mean, he was on Brian McCullough's Internet History podcast in 2015. The audio quality is absolutely terrible because they recorded it in the conference room and it's actually pretty hard to listen to. I feel shameless about asking maybe some of those the same questions as Brian asked because his quality is just so hard to listen to that we could, give listeners like the same question with better quality. And we could call out Brian when we talk about that. When I was listening to that, Brian was saying that everywhere in the US, in all of the dorm rooms, people were using Winamp play files they downloaded from the internet and Napster and all that.
I don't think it was just the US. When I was in college, we had a LAN like that too, so that everybody could get access to everybody's. You didn't call it pirated music because that term did not exist. That was the way to share music, right? You just put it on a LAN and everybody gets it from there. Every single person had Winamp running there, everywhere.
Yeah, Winamp was awesome. But even more importantly for our field, Justin Frankel, after he was done with working for AOL, American Line, after it acquired Winamp, he went on to found Cocos, which is the name of the company. We will have to ask him about the name, why he named it that way. And that company created Reaper. He said, I created Reaper in that interview, so I'm actually curious how much code he actually wrote himself. I will not be surprised if he wrote most of the core code, at least of the early versions. So yeah, Reaper is the digital audio workstation that we use. I've used for the last 7 years or so. All of our episodes are produced in Reaper. Actually, Misha posted a message in one of the chats with other podcasters saying like, hey, I've been interviewing this guy. If you have questions, send them to me. So he's going to send me some questions later today. We will see hopefully some questions from the field, So I'm super excited about that. And another one that's upcoming is Women Who Code podcast. We already have it in our calendar, so unless things go wrong, we will have that as well. So actually, one of the things we were talking about in the Ronak and Guang's episode is when you get started, people just say yes and come to your show and spend time with you and just help you out. And it's not just for podcasts, right? When you're early in your career, if you just ask, most people will say no, but some people will say yes.
I don't think most people will say no. If you know how to ask it, I think most people will say yes.
Actually, it's a good point, yeah. Some people may not see your stuff because it goes into some kind of spam on email or LinkedIn if you get too many. I guess you have to be very careful about what kind of level of people you ask for things.
It has to be appropriate, both for you and them, yeah.
Right. Yeah, like somebody I know recently, he posted on LinkedIn, he said something like, I want to start a podcast and I want the first guest on my show to be Lex Friedman. Can anybody connect me to Lex Friedman? I later think, so were you able to connect to Lex Friedman? He's like, no. And he sent him some messages he didn't reply and nobody could connect him because that person's just so high in the hierarchy, social hierarchy, I guess, or podcasting hierarchy, that it's, I guess, almost impossible for folks like us to get him unless we actually know someone who he would know really, really, really well and would just do us a favor, He would actually do that person a favor, not us. This is just something to keep in mind. Even if you are in a career situation, if you just send a message to a vice president at Google or something, you will probably not get a response at all. Whereas if you send a message to an engineer at Google, you actually might get a response.
The exception to this, I think, very well generic rule is Elon Musk. And I think if you send a tweet to him, he will respond.
Oh my God. So I stopped using Twitter again. So by the way, we should promote our social handles more.
Yeah.
So Arnab's social handle is impossible to spell. So just look for it in the show notes. Mine is just my last name.
It's actually meant to be very easy. And it's the same one everywhere. It's because I wanted it to be ARNAB, my first name. But the only place where I got that was GitHub. And everywhere else, I believe there's a person called Arnab Nandi or somebody else. They basically got it everywhere else. And people mispronounce my name quite a lot.
So they pronounce it with a 0 and a 9, right?
Yes. Well, talking about Elon Musk, I think, yeah, that's... You know what I'm talking about? His first child, or I don't know which child, but one of their names is... Well, you should look it up. But yeah, it's very different, unique. Anyway, getting back to it, most people in India, my name is pronounced as Arnab, R, right? Whereas where I come from in Assam, it's pronounced more like Ornab. So I wanted to add that a little bit while trying to get a unique handle that I could get everywhere. The one that I got was like doorknob, but you cut the D.
Okay. Arnab.
Yeah. So Arnab.
Let me try to spell it back to you. So it's 0R9OB.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. I can never spell it.
You did good, yeah.
I just spell your first name, let's say on Instagram, and it matches your nickname to your alias, whatever, login, what do you call it?
Yeah, username.
Username.
Yeah. So what's yours?
Bezdilov. So it's just my last name, which also will be, I guess, hard to pronounce or remember for people who don't know the language. Because actually in Russian language, it means somebody who does no work, like a lazy person. Yeah. Which is, I guess, quite the opposite of how I see myself. But yeah, so for Russian speakers, it's easy to remember.
I'm really curious about how that last name came to be now.
Probably multiple generations. I probably had a slacker somewhere. Because my dad, my granddad, also very hardworking. My great granddad, very hardworking. I mean, who bear the same family name. So it must be my great granddad or
before.
Beyond that. Yeah. It's like somebody in the 19th century. But speaking about, the reason why I brought it up is I haven't used Twitter for a long time and I wanted to promote our episodes. I posted it there. And actually, it felt good to tweet. I don't know, somehow it felt good. And then I wrote something like, I'll give it a fourth try. And then I wanted to tag Elon Musk just to see what happens. And then I'm like, if he responds, I don't know if I want Elon Musk to respond to me because it might be something mean.
Well, there's nothing like bad publicity, right?
There is some bad energy about bad publicity. So
No, I'm kidding. Yeah, there is absolutely bad things about bad publicity.
yeah. I'm now watching this show, Super Pumped. I think it's what it's called, about Uber. Have you watched that?
No. Oh, it's on HBO, I think, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So they've got a lot of bad publicity. I mean, at Uber. And oh my God, it's just so awful.
And a lot of it deservedly.
For all deservedly. I don't know, I can't speculate, but yeah, I've heard some terrible things about Uber. Actually, I personally only used Uber a couple of times. I always use Lyft. I only want to have good vibes.
One quick thing. We actually got our first rating, I think in Spotify. One of our friends told us that she gave us a rating. Great. Thank you. Yay. And I also got a bit of private feedback. Somebody emailed me saying that they're really enjoying all our episodes, and it's like they hear my voice and they know me from like a long time back, right? So they're really enjoying it. But at the same time, the metasodes are very long. So I think maybe aiming for 45 minutes to an hour, something like that might be good. And we're about 42 minutes in. So I just wanted to drop that in.
So I also got some good feedback from our friend James. Let's say hi to James. And actually, so James, if you listen to this, send us a note. That's how we test if you listen. So yeah, James sent me a message a couple of days ago saying that he really enjoyed the Metasode about Sandman. And I've been trying to sell him on Sandman for the last 3 years, I think.
The comics or the audiobook or?
The comics and the audiobook. I mean, first in comics, then in the audiobook. Because I think first time I tried to sell him on the Sandman, the audiobook hadn't come out yet. So it was all about the comics. Yeah, and he said that our Metasode finally convinced him to listen to the book, to the audio version. Which was good. It's like impact, influence.
We should probably do a second version or second revision of the Primisode at some point. I'll just add, I won't take more than 25 seconds, I promise, but I'll say something about the Sandman. Hopefully we won't go this time on a tangent.
Okay.
By the way, for people who did not know about this, in one of the episodes, I forget which one, Ilya and I started recording a Metasode, but we basically spent like an hour and a half talking about Sandman and comics and other stuff, where we decided, okay, we'll make this a Primisode. And that became our episode 7.
7.5.
7.5, yes, which is not prime, but anyway. But anyway, about the audiobook, right? So after we talked, I watched the show on Netflix. I haven't finished it, but I watched quite a few episodes, and I started listening to the audiobook too. The thing that I got was, if I know the content very well, either from having read the comics or having watched the show, the audio series was amazing. But when I drifted the audio part to more than what I had already seen on TV, I had a very hard time keeping it all in my head about who's speaking, what is it, what are they talking about. You have to know the content for that audio book to make sense, I think.
Oh, it's interesting. Because I already had all these images from the comic books. And to your point, the plot is very complex. All these multiple dimensions and all these characters, and the same characters being represented in different shapes and sizes and genders or whatever, right? Actually, not gender. I think gender is always the same in the comic books, but changes the appearance and names depending on the time. So yeah, I can totally get it. I think it goes best with comics because it's a one-to-one match. Yeah, and I think that concludes your 25 seconds.
Yes.
So what were some of your takeaways from that episode that we recorded, the last one?
I think the part that I enjoyed the most was hearing Guang's things about working from different places, living in different places. And I have always wanted to do that, but I have a kid and a dog who keep me happily rooted to this place where I am in. But I think otherwise, I probably would have tried to do something like that too. So I really enjoyed talking to him about that. And talking about Mexico, I am going to Mexico this coming week for a short 1 week break. Really excited. The first time I went is last year, and I really like the culture and the language and the people. So I started basically a journey of picking up Spanish. I won't say I'm even at the intermediate level at this point, but I do know the basics now. And this time when I go, I am hoping to have a lot of conversations all in Spanish. Let's see how it goes.
So next time you start an intro to our episode, you should say, hola, hola, hola.
See?
¿Cómo está?
Yeah, we'll do that. That'll be fine.
Yeah, I knew we would drift into the career discussion with these guys, so it was really interesting, as always. Sometimes, like when I talk to folks who are like single and have no children, maybe also younger than I am, I would be like, use the opportunities to travel. You can, right? Or live in different places. Like before we had our first child, we lived in 3 or 4 different countries because it was easy. We could just move anytime we wanted. I mean, anytime like things had to align, job and all that, and immigration, but there was no school to take care of. There was no house to like sell or anything like that. We didn't even have cars. So you just like pack your stuff, hand your landlord the keys back, and off you go. But now with the remote work, you can also just travel and work from anywhere. During COVID, actually, I spent so much time working from other places like Hawaii and Florida. And before we moved to Florida, also we spent a few months in Russia. That was just so liberating. I could never go back to the 9 to 5 in the office again, even if they offer massage or whatever. Like, I think my freedom is, I can sell it for the in-office stuff.
I think at the same time, though, there is something to be said about what Ronak brought about, like the face-to-face connection. And once he said it, I realized I'd never thought about it that way. When you're fully remote or during COVID, everybody would have felt this. You start your day, let's say with a meeting, and you end your day with a meeting. Those meetings immediately start with the agenda. Whereas if you're in person, you're maybe walking to a conference room together with somebody and you're talking about life. That sort of connection is very hard to make in the remote world.
Yeah, I agree. I was solving so many problems in hallways when we were in the office. You just go to grab some water and you meet someone and you chat with them 5 minutes and you no longer need the meeting. You just solve your problems that way. It's only when you really have to get the entire team together or something, then you get everybody in the room. But also I remember just how many things were solved because our entire pod was sitting in the same area.
Yeah. And it was a small team, so.
And it was a small team too, yeah. So you were just like, hey, everyone, or like just send a message in chat, like, can you come to my desk or something? And then you just talk to everybody. It was just so good. Yeah, like we didn't have to plan happy hours. You would just bring drinks to the office. And then just at the end of the workday, we just start. Yeah, it was just so easy to do. And I miss that. I miss working in a very small team in a collocated space.
I think towards the end of my job at Amazon, I was working with about 4.5 different teams. And one of those teams I was working pretty much a lot with. The other ones were like more, I won't say formal, but like more hands-off kind of work. Towards the end, I had started making some progress into this where basically figure out my calendar or mold it in a way that allows people that they know that between this and this time he's available and I'm just going to send a message. And I used to be able to make some time on the fly like that. And that felt great. And it helps those engineers quite a lot because before that, I think my calendar was scheduled in such a way that you would basically have to schedule something like a week or 2 weeks after. And if I force people to do that, to schedule a meeting with me like 2 weeks after, they're never going to come and discuss those interesting immediate problems. I started enjoying it towards the end, the way I had set it up.
Yeah, one thing I really like how it's set up at Google is that it's kind of the best practice or common practice to make the calendar events editable by anybody who's invited to them. So basically, if you have a one-on-one with somebody, and they need to move things around for whatever reason, they can do it even if you schedule it. Or some group meetings, somebody else can just reschedule it if it doesn't work or if it works better on some other day, which creates more churn in the calendar. But at the same time, it reduces the churn in communication because things just move around and it just works itself out.
Yep.
I really like that aspect of it.
It also moves that churn to the person who needs to move it. because otherwise that person will contact the owner of the meeting saying like, hey, I can't make this, can you find? And then now it's the owner who has to communicate with everybody to figure out a new slot.
Right, yes. Let's conclude this. I was watching a couple of videos on lighting today, for like how you like do good lighting for your video recordings. I was clicking links for the equipment that one of these people shared, and I was looking at these lights. It's like a light bulb in a box. I think it's like almost $1,000, and you need 2 of these, and you also need a colorful strip behind you, so it's all colorful and good. And all these cameras that cost like $2,500. I'm like, oh my God, it's actually pretty expensive to be a creator on YouTube if you want to produce those really high quality looking videos. It made me think about, do you first get popular, start making money, and then buy the equipment? Or actually these days, you have to first buy all that equipment so you actually stand a chance to become popular. Because in the era of high quality appearances, you might just be dismissed because you don't look well on video, obviously.
There's probably a good middle ground there. First of all, your content or whatever you're making has to be good. If it's not, you've wasted all that money. And you may not know whether people like it or not before you produce it.
In any case, so actually the cost of the things that I'm using right now, I think looks pretty decent. I think the most expensive thing that I'm using right now is a drum kit, which I think it was about $2,000. It's a very nice Yamaha Stage something drum kit that I don't play, but I just like to look at it. But yeah, the lights I'm using, I think they were 7 years ago, they were like $200 for 4 lights and this kind of the green screen thing and all that stuff. They're kind of on the cheaper side. And that's pretty much it. So I feel like actually you can be creative and achieve some of that with lower price equipment. And also like using the iPhone, I'm surprised actually how good the recording is. I'm really, really surprised. So yeah, we'll see how that comes out.
And I'm not using anything other than a lamp
Curtains.
light that I have. Basically, there's a wall behind me, which is a brightly colored wall. And I've made the lamp focus towards the wall so that I'm getting some glow back from the wall into me. That's pretty much it. There's a lamp here. And I'm using a Blue Yeti mic put on top of, let me actually show, some of the Dogman books.
Dogman books.
Yes. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, actually, it would have been so funny if James, instead of saying that he got hooked on Sandman, if he said he got hooked on Dogman. I guess his kids are too grown up for the Dogman at this point.
Yeah.
And my older kid no longer reads Dogman.
Yeah, mine too.
But my younger one is too small for it yet.
Same here. I mean, my younger one is a dog, so he doesn't read Dogman at all, sadly. But yeah, this is why I'm using the books as a stand for the microphone.
All right, so let's end with that. And I want to do your usual speech about give us a 5-star review.
People should know it already, but if you don't, then yeah, leave us a 5-star review. Send us feedback. If you're not comfortable leaving it there, just send us an email. We are both on hello@metacastpodcast.com. And you can find all our other links in the show notes of this episode.
Nobody sent us an email yet.
In the hello at thing, right? But people have reached out both to you and me through email and Signal and all that and given us feedback.
These are all people that we know.
Yeah.
I think the time when somebody actually shares our content somewhere would be like, yes. It's like somebody who doesn't know us or who we don't know actually enjoyed it and shared it. I also feel a bit actually tired today. I think this episode is kind of a slow zone.
Yeah. Also, I think the fact that we decided to do video maybe made us a bit conscious and we kind of spoke slowly and all that. We'll see.
I'm so hyper-conscious. I'll have to show it now to the camera. But this bottle, it's a Contigo bottle. For people who are listening, it's like, this bottle looks very used. That's because I've had it for maybe 6 years. I just love this bottle so much. It said no machine washing, only hand wash, but like, I'm not going to wash my bottle like by hand every day. So I washed it in the washing machine, and that's why all that paint just came off. I don't care. But now that we are doing the video, it made me drink less.
So that bottle is always with you?
Yeah, I mean, you would have seen it when we were working at Amazon.
Why I bring that up is I'm leading slowly towards a Spanish word joke this time.
Okay.
The level has been raised, Ilya. So, contigo in Spanish means literally with you.
Oh, yeah? Oh.
Yeah.
The cool thing about this bottle is, I'm going to have to show it in the video, but people can just look it up. So this bottle, it has a button that you press and it opens the thing here that you drink from. And it also has a lock. So if you press that lock, the button no longer can be pressed. So you can drop it into your backpack and it won't spill. But also when you want to drink, you just press the button and just sip from it. And there are no straws or anything like that I genuinely don't like because you wash them. There's like bacteria in there. I don't like that. So this stuff is just so ergonomically, I don't know, it's better than any bottle I've ever had. I think I've had 4 of this in my life so far, but I lost 3 of them.
Same kind of feeling like you, that this is always with me. It's a hydro flask. Similar kind of thing where it locks and doesn't leak and there's no straw. It's so simple. I love it, yeah. There are no promotions, right? We are not getting paid by Hydro Flask or Contigo.
It would be nice to be paid by Contigo, but yeah. Okay, cool. I guess if you watch the video, tell us something.
Yeah. Somebody would literally say something and send it to us.
Okay. Yeah, if they're engineers, they might, well do that. All right. See you next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.